tight. Only on the fly bar assembly. This is the aluminum head that I said that I turned the arms around on, so when the swash plate goes down, the pitch goes down. Swash plate up, pitch up. Pitch up, pitch down. In normal mode at 0 throttle, I've got my pitch at +1. That way if I pull it down, it doesn't come down on the ground so hard. I'm using a Futaba 7 CHP that has a 5-point pitch curve, throttle curve, and 2 idle up settings. At half throttle, I've got a +4 pitch. At full throttle, I've got almost 10. Between 9 idle up mode, at half throttle, I have -1. In idle up, my throttle all the way down, I've got about 13, 14 negative pitch. So I could probably move the whole range of my pitch up a little bit. So I've only got about 10 or 11 down, and I'll have more up at full throttle. This is how you use a pitch gauge. I have an E-flite pitch gauge, and I usually put the pitch gauge in the middle of the main rotor blade. And also what I do is I have to eye the top of the pitch gauge with the fly bar, and that'll tell me what, that way the pitch gauge is level with the fly bar, and then I can see what my pitch is. I'll see if I can get a better pitch gauge is level with the fly bar, and now I can take my pitch reading. Here's what I did with the aluminum head. I took this arm here. Normally when you get it, this arm is facing this way and the screw is facing up. But I pulled it off of this shaft, and then as long as the screw is facing up, you can turn it around like this and put it back on, tighten that screw up, and you have your pitch up, swash up. But you have to put these arms on the other side of this arm, otherwise this would be over here. And then, you don't have to change your, I believe it was 2 and 6 or 4 and 6 servo wires around and change some dip switch settings. You can use that, or if you want to put your plastic head on, you go ahead and put the plastic head on and you're all set up. So if you look at these pitch adjusting rods, what you see here is not that little piece of threaded 10mm that came with it, because if that was in here I wouldn't have any threads to hang on to. So what I did is I took a rod from one of these, I cut it down to about maybe 14 or 15mm with equal threads on each side, and then I screwed that in there. That gave me more room to adjust the threads. And also on the lower control arms for the pitch and for the fly bar, they do I am using the short connectors there. What I've seen in some of the recent posts is something about the fly bar hitting the anti-rotation bracket. Now if you look, this is at the swash plate is in the middle, but if I move the fly bar down, it'll hit it. And I've had this with the swash plate all the way up and full pitch, but you could probably take off about 1/4 of an inch, because this does not go all the way up to the top. It only goes up to about right here. So if you could take off 1/4 of an inch, but you also have to put in something in here to keep those two pieces together, because you don't want them to go apart like that. If you look at this rear plastic stabilizer holder that goes around the tail boom, these screws on the Wakera are up higher and longer, so when you screw them in to tighten it up, they gouge out the tail boom. So what I did is these here are from a T-Rex, and the screw holes are lower, and because they're lower they give you more room to screw in. But on here I did trim them up because I didn't want my paint scratched, but they still hold secure. And if you look, there's a second hole on here to thread your antenna through, also on the black one that comes with the Wakera. I am using the aligned tail servo holder. I've got the original rod on there cut about 1/2 inch. On mine I had to grind out the inside just a little bit so it would fit over the paint, and this did take out the slop from the control rod that was here. I would always move it one direction, but it wouldn't go back to center. And if I moved it the other direction, it would come back, but not all the way. So I had like some dead space there that it wouldn't return to center. With this, it returns to center every time. I saw this part from one of Sunny B's pictures, he put a heat sink on one of his ESCs. This one I took off of a computer motherboard for the chipset, and I cut it down to fit right over it, put some new heat shrink tubing on there, cut out a notch so I could see the light. It's a Phoenix, so I needed to see it for programming. That worked real good. And I don't know if you can see, I'm going to move this over, but right here, you see this line here? It's plastic. I don't know if you can see it, but what I did here is I took like a piece from a plastic box, and what I did is I cut it so it fit the inside along the side here, so it's stuck to the, it's really stuck to the back of this ESC with some like servo tape. And then I've got some on the tops of my batteries. Look at my battery here. This is a Thunder Power 2100. What I did is I took another piece of that plastic. This foam piece underneath the plastic will wedge the battery in there so it doesn't move back and forth, and this piece of tape holding the end of the plastic down keeps the battery from hitting those bolts as it's going in. And then along with this other piece of plastic inside the frame there, it's easy to slide it in there. But originally I put this piece of plastic on there because of the front frame bolts. They would make strips in the battery there. Not good. This is the modification that I made to the micro Healy tail slider assembly. If you look right here, you can see how it's kind of a U shape there. I took a Dremel and kind of ground it out so it would come up closer to here. What's wrong with this is these arms here are too short. If they were like, say, 2-3 millimeters longer, it'd be perfect, but they are not, so I have to counteract my pitch quite a bit and then set up my servo. Now we get to see how it flies. Yeah, keep it on the helicopter.
You can look the time, but you want it to. I'm videotaping it. Or not.